process is not just getting close friends to read it. We shouldn't get a close friend to read it. And I think by then we realized we were so close, we got a third person on board and finally got a proofreader. So it's important that you take those steps for yourself. My advice is publish.
She's speaking in an official capacity.
Friends and family are not your readership.
Definitely. Because everybody has a jaded view, and you have an even more jaded view, because you view your work as perfect already in your eyes. Whereas somebody else is going to come and say to you, but you've missed a comma and a letter and a couple other words, which my sister told me, and I went, okay, thanks very much, not telling you that. You have to wait. So Alison, the next question is, who do you think this book would help? And what part of the book especially would you say would be the most helpful of all? And for me, after reading it quite a few times, I lost count, I would say my favorite is the poem that you have. That is my favorite, but I'll let you.
Okay. Anybody who's ever experienced any form of loss in any way or form, bearing in mind one person whose family get divorced, who has never experienced death, for them that is as big as if they had lost through death. You've got to understand, our bodies experience some things that are not death as if it was personal death. So when any major trauma happens in our lives, our body thinks, oh my God, my life is never going to be the same again. This must be death, because life as I know it is never going to be the same again. And the impact on the body is massive, energetically. That's why when people suffer from depression after loss, people are like, man, they just need to get over themselves. But the place is so dark, they don't know which way is up. So I always say to people, the ones that look the most together, trust me, because I've been in the industry for a long time. 2002, I've seen thousands of people for consultations. You'll be shocked at how some people who look the most together have the biggest stories. You would not, they may drive a fancy car and look all zhuzhed up. You would not swap your story with theirs. The ones that look like they've been there and back, they just don't know how to hide their feelings. It's not that their story is necessarily worse. They just feel like, oh my God, I've been to hell and back. But others may have had a worse journey. So I have no judgment either way. I believe everybody is given what they can handle. So if someone's lost everybody in their family and had real huge traumas, and somebody else has just lost something small, there's no difference with the impact on the individual just because of what you're viewing, as there is no comparison. And you're always only given what you would be, what you can handle. I really do believe that. One thing I also want to say, because as human beings, we're inclined to do this thing of imagine if. What if my mother died? What if, you know, and we go through huge trauma because your body does not know, your mind doesn't know the difference between imagination and the real thing. So you're putting yourself under huge stress without realizing that your body doesn't have the tools to handle it. And so to imagine yourself there is not appropriate, because when it happens, and if it ever happened to you, you would have the tools to handle it. I remember being like in Cottonwool, not really aware, and yet I'd met someone who'd lost her husband 2 months before, and I thought, if that happened to me, I would die. And she was 7 months pregnant with her child. And I remember 7 months pregnant with her baby, and her husband was killed in an accident. And I remembered early on, in the January after my husband died, for some reason I remembered her, and I thought, oh my gosh, she was not experiencing it anything like I imagined, because I wasn't even feeling the full impact of the loss, because it was like everything was coming through filters of Cottonwool. I never even heard songs that were really, 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 really important, and it hit at the time. I heard a year later, but I had the radio on every day in the car. It was just blocked, so you really are protected, so it's not a harsh thing to you. But I just, besides those 2 parts that I think are, did I read the bottom part? No, I didn't. So these are the important parts. I read you the one part, and this is for people who blame themselves if they've been in an accident and they survive, the survivor's guilt, or something happened and they wish they'd stopped it, if a person committed suicide, etc. So this is what I got. The truth is, if you were meant to be there, you would have been. If you were meant to die with them, you would have. If you were meant to die instead of them, you would have. If you were meant to help them avoid it, you would have. If you were meant to prevent it, you would have. No one dies before their time, so the timing is always perfect. Because the guilt that people have relating to that stops them from moving forward in their lives, wishing they had died instead of. But now, one of the big bosses, I worked in Telkom before, that's where my friend Wendy and I met. They were one of the big bosses that I really had a good connection with. He had passed away, and when my husband died about a year later, his wife sent a condolence card, and this is the words that was in the card. So I took the card and I put it in my handbag to take to the funeral. It literally arrived as we were walking out the house to go to the funeral. And these words were absolutely amazing. And when I tried to find that card in order to give it to other people, because it helped me so much, I couldn't find it anywhere. When I sent out that email to that girl who'd lost her son, and then I realized everybody needs to know this, and I told everybody, just share it and share it and share it. Somebody came back, because I said there was this beautiful poem. Somebody said, this is the poem, and sent me the information. So I was able to have it in my book. It's, this was the canon of St. Paul's Cathedral who did a sermon following the death of King Edward VII. So it's a pretty big deal poem. And I mean, it's from a priest, I presume, canon of St. Paul's Cathedral. So it says, death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you. And the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched and unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used to. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laugh at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you for an interval somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again. And the one thing I also want to say, because that poem really says what it does, we're inclined to, people who have lost a loved one, we're inclined to not talk to them about the loved one. You avoid it, they need to talk about it. They need to talk about it. I was listening to, there's a woman they had on the radio in one of the radio stations in Cape Town, and she was talking about the book that she wrote, and she had twins. The one twin died and the other one didn't, and so how nobody would talk about the twin that died, and then her journey. And there was an elderly lady that phoned in. Her daughter died 19 years ago, and I could hear this woman's pain. 19 years ago is a long time ago, and the way she was sobbing on the phone saying, nobody will speak to me about my daughter. Nobody in the family acknowledges as if she even existed. So if you had, because I had thought about saying this and I'd completely forgotten about it, so maybe there's someone here who has somebody who has lost, or you need to tell people that avoid talking about it, especially to children. They rely on you to keep their parents alive for them. So you've got to keep talking about them and reminding them about things in order for them to feel their parent was validated.